Hello, parents, caregivers, and guardians. On January 9th, 2025, I presented to the Benton-Franklin County SEPTA on special education community complaints. That's state complaints for the rest of the world. This is a second recording for my website on this topic. Before I begin, you need to know that I am not an attorney and Advocacy Unlocked is not a law firm. We are special education advocates and we cannot give legal advice. And we at Advocacy Unlocked are not providing legal advice in this presentation because we are not lawyers. We provide this information to help you understand the processes of special education. This presentation and its content are the intellectual property of Advocacy Unlocked. Unauthorized use, reproduction, or distribution of any part of this presentation without prior written permission is strictly prohibited. All rights reserved. A brief introduction of me. My name is Shannon, and I have a beloved basset hound named Cupcake. I am a member of COPA, the Council of Parent, Attorney, and Advocates, and I am bound to their ethical rules. I was a teacher for 14 years. I have 2 master's degrees in education. I am from Chicago. I author a column in the Jolt on special education, and I began advocating as a foster parent, and I've continued on for almost 16 years. Let's jump right in. Today's topics are the background of SECCs, the different sections, and a case study was presented at the Benton-Franklin County SEPTA, but will be offered in my workshops on this topic. It will not be provided here. The background. So, special education community complaints are a part of the dispute resolution options in IDEA and the Washington Administrative Code. And OSPI provides a form that you can choose to use. You don't have to, but you do need to use all of these sections of the form if you choose to just write it on Word or Google Docs. Um, OSPI you file the complaint with OSPI and your school district, and they will investigate. Anyone can file a special education community complaint, or in other states, a state complaint. But you do need to be prepared for follow-up questions. So if you look through the Washington state, and as well as any other state, you'll find that they've been written mostly by parents, or at least submitted by parents and ghostwritten by others. Attorneys, advocates, community members, teachers, service providers, all of them have written complaints in Illinois, Pennsylvania, California, Oregon, Washington, and New York that I've looked at. Anyone can write one or submit one. So let's look at the sections. To start with, you give your basic background information in section 1. I'm really focusing on the next section, the narratives of the state complaint here. So let's first look at allegations. Your first tip here is that you must say there was a violation. Now, if you're in Washington, you want to say that it violates a WAC. You don't need to know exactly which WAC, but you need to say that it violates some part of the WAC related to special education. The second is that you need to state that it violates IDEA somehow, the federal law. And the reason for that is if there's no violation, then there's nothing to complain about. So you need to have a violation of one of either federal or your state, or both is better. When you look up written state complaints, the decisions usually are online. You want to figure out what category yours belongs to because that will help you in the writing of it. So IEP implementation, IEP development and progress monitoring tend to be very common. And then what you'll want to do is open up one of those that matches your category. So say your child's accommodations aren't being met, that's IEP implementation. You want to find some decisions related to your category. Those decisions will have issues. So the issues are written as a question, whether the district violated blah, blah, blah. Look at that question and change it into a statement, and then personalize it for your allegations. And I'll give you an example in the next slide. I looked at the Washington Special Education Community Complaints, and this was from the year 24, and it was complaint number 110, not decision, but complaint number 110. Sometimes decisions skip numbers, and that's because they've been settled or dropped. So their issue number 2, there were more than one issues in the complaint, was whether during the 23-24 school year, the district appropriately considered parent input and addressed concerns and requests around social skills, executive functioning, and vision consultations. Turn that into a allegation for you, you just turn it into a sentence and personalize it. You would say the district did not consider parent input and did not address concerns and requests around adaptive behavior skills, accommodations, and modifications, for example. Now we're going to get into the meat of the complaint, your facts. Everything that you said in that allegation needs to be backed up by facts. You need to look at each allegation and break it apart, which we will do in the next slide. You need facts to back up every allegation you make. So, in our example, we said there were violations related to adaptive behavior skills, accommodations, and modification. That means that we need context, facts, and evidence for each of these three. We need to answer the WH questions for each, all of them: who, what, where, when, why, and how. We need a timeline that goes back at least a year. However, you should be giving more information than that that's older. The investigator will not consider more than a year prior in terms of the allegation, even if the allegation, the violation's been going on for 5 years. What they will do is look at all those facts and that context to get a better understanding of what was going on. So it's very beneficial to go back farther than 1 year, but understand that the investigator will only consider what happened in the last 12 months. Your documents form your evidence packet. Now, some people do not file evidence packets with their complaint, they only file the narrative. I always encourage my clients to file an evidence packet because each one of those documents supports your claims and your allegations. It convinces the investigator and it makes it easy on them to find in your favor. So let's take a look at what those documents are. The first thing is the All About Me and IEP at a Glance. You should have given that to the school every single year to every single teacher and aide working with your child. This tells the investigator that your efforts at educating the staff on your child's needs have been ongoing and are thorough. You want notes on ongoing problems and issues, preferably written as communication to the school and school district, and you want to save all those forever. Um, I'm going to switch over to the other side. I want you to keep a log of events and behaviors that you see at home, especially if your child's behavior has suddenly changed towards their their attitude towards school has suddenly changed, or their behavior, they're suddenly not wanting to go. Um, It's very important to type your own notes at IEP meeting. If you can't do it, get a friend, hire an advocate. The reason for that is a lot of really important things said don't quite make it into the school notes. So it's a good practice to always type those notes if you're not allowed to record. And lastly, every time you see a violation, email the school if you can about it to give them a chance to fix it and respond. Also, by the time you're at a state complaint level of dispute, you should be speaking to the board about their policies related to the violation and emailing your speech to the directors and superintendent. Save that communication because that, again, is evidence that you have tried to resolve this and that you have made all parties aware. In my column in the Jolt, I talk a lot about using AI to help you with your documentation. And this is something I work with my clients on in their work groups, not workshops. It's a little bit beyond that. We use AI to evaluate and analyze SEC complaints in bulk to get an idea of what kind of documentation was used in previous complaints that were successful and unsuccessful, as well as what the AI, knowing all this information, would recommend us to improve in terms of our own documentation. So I highly encourage you to check out my column in the Jolt, or my blog. That's why my little logo's there. And those will give you some ideas of prompts to use. You're welcome to copy and paste them. They're quite involved prompts. And finally, the remedy. The remedy is how you would like to see this solved. In the decisions, they're often called corrective actions. And this is something, again, where AI can help you determine in similar cases what were the remedies allowed. We'll look at some examples in the next slide. In Washington state, remedies are considered student or district specific. Remember, a state complaint is against a district, not necessarily the school. So, student specific can be compensatory education or compensatory services, meaning you will either be giving minutes of instruction or services or a fund to purchase those independently. And your child will usually need an ABLE account so those funds can be deposited into the account. Oftentimes, an IEP meeting will be required, in which case it's usually a facilitated IEP meeting, which has a neutral third party making sure the meeting moves forward. And at times there is a placement change. When I have seen the placement changes as a result of a state complaint, it requires a lot of contextual data and background information. So you will absolutely need to go beyond the 1 year mark for that. District specific written guidance and training is very often used. And that's especially true when a district is not using prior written notices or in meeting invitations properly. Policy review and revision, the state can require the district to go back and review and revise their policies around whatever your complaint is about. Classroom audits, if there is a violation of your child's IEP in a classroom or a school where it is believed that it is also violating other children's rights, the state will require the school to give an audit and report back to them. This is a pretty big deal. They will have to go through and look at every IEP and make sure that they didn't violate any more students' rights. And then corrective action plan. If there's a classroom audit, there likely will be a corrective action plan, and which are steps the school district has to take to improve whatever they messed up on. There are other, especially student specific remedies. There are tons and tons and tons, but these are the most common. If you have a state complaint that you're writing, definitely look at similar ones and look at what remedies the state gave in those situations. The last thing you need to know about state complaints is that you file it with the state, but then also give a copy to the school district so that they can respond and hopefully solve whatever complaint you have or dispute you have. It's important to get proof that you've sent that to them, either through email or when you drop it off at the district office, get a receipt, a signed receipt, so that you can prove that you gave it to them. In my presentation to the Benton-Franklin County's SEPTA, I gave a case study, but that is a little bit long for this recording. So if you're interested in that, please connect with me. I am doing a series of workshops on written state complaints. There are 3. The first one goes into more detail on how to write it. And then the second one goes into remedies. The third one really looks at the documents you need and how to get them. After that, after you've done these 3 workshops, you can join, if you want, a work group through my website. And the work groups really help us get our state complaint written. We work as a team, myself and up to 8 clients work together to get their state complaints written and written really well. So, with a very high chance of success. Nationally, only 40% about 50% of allegations are founded. Within Washington state, it's about 40%. And so we are working together to make sure that our complaints are as strong as they can be. And I hope you join us. All right. Thank you and have a wonderful day.